And welcome back to the Constitution Line by Line. I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And I'm Don Frazier.
And we are on Article 2,
Bam.
Section 2,
2,
Clause 3.
All right.
We're talking about vacancies.
Is this the last clause?
This is the last clause of Section 2.
Okay.
The President shall have the power to fill up vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. So,
recess appointments.
Recess appointments. Congress goes on vacation, takes a recess. President goes, aha!
Now's my chance.
Now's my chance. I am going to put this person in this position, and there's nothing the Senate can do about it. I can bypass that 2/3 vote.
And that advise and consent problem.
Exactly. And get them there, and that person can stay until the end of the next term. And when do these Senate terms end? They end every 2 years.
Yeah.
So if the president appoints someone now, they get to serve for 18, 19 months. So in terms of a president exercising his power, this recess power is awesome.
That is, and it's a peculiar power.
Yeah.
It's very peculiar that would be built in. So on the one hand, advice and consent, Senate control, et cetera, et cetera. But if we catch you napping on a beach somewhere,
yes,
we're going to continue the business of the executive branch without you.
Yes. And there's nothing you can do about it.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
And Congress fought back on that.
Did they?
And what did they do? They said, we're not going into recess.
We just will never go into recess.
That's right. So we'll have pro forma sessions every 3 days or so. We'll get one of the senators who lives nearby, Maryland, Virginia, just come in, call us into session, call us out of session. Takes about 30 seconds. Don't even have a prayer, no pledge of allegiance, nothing. And then we're in.
Still in.
And you
the perpetual Senate.
And you can't have a recess appointment. And by the way, this actually happened when Barack Obama was president. And he appointed someone to the National Labor Relations Board. And the Senate said, but we were in a pro forma session. And the president said, that's not a real session. And went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled in favor of Congress.
Yeah, I imagine so.
And they said a session is a session. So the appointees on the National Labor Relations Board who had been working, they lost their job. All the decisions they made were tossed out.
Wow.
Tossed out. So.
Tried to pull a fast one, and they pulled a fast one back.
Yeah. So here's an example of control of the presidency.
So why would that be in there?
I think about that too. And I wonder if this was one of those things that proponents of a strong presidency just slipped in there and hoping nobody would notice. Or was it something that people who supported the legislature said, we need this additional control? And we get to define what a recess is, and you don't, Mr. President? I don't know.
Let me posit this.
Please.
If the Senate is, in fact, the personification of the state as a whole, because these guys are appointed by the state, and they're in recess, then the president's essentially saying, well, the various states have opted out. And so we've still got to do the business of the federal government, so we'll throw these appointments in there, and they can undo them at the end of the next session. Plus, we're talking about 1790s. It's tough to get from point A to point B. But ultimately, if the Senate is a gathering of the states, because of how senators were chosen originally, then this may have a different connotation than it does now.
Such as?
Well, Texas is in recess, South Carolina's in recess, Maine's in recess. They're all in recess. It's not these senators are in recess. It's the state. So, the various states are in recess.
So is this then a sop to the states, or is this a sop to the president to keep the government going? I think it's hard to get up to D.C.?
Yeah, and I think it's probably a sop to both, that, we have a federalism here, and this is the federal government, but we're also representing the interests of the various states. But sometimes we got to get on with things. And look, it's a temporary appointment.
It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so instead we've had to, kind of go around the corner and evoke the left elbow Thursday rule and things like that in order to get around it by doing these, goofy sessions that never end.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if when you start monkeying with some of the components that are built in, does it start to make some of these clauses we're reading seem bizarre? It's kind of law of unintended consequences.
Yeah, maybe. And we have to remember this was written in a certain time for a certain audience.
Yeah.
So, and I could see really that you want to keep the government going when you can't call Congress back into session.
Correct.
And so we got to have.
And it's not the House, which is the people.
Yeah.
It's the Senate, which
Senate.
is the states.
Yeah. Okay. That would make sense.
All right. That's something that occurred to me.
Yeah. The other thing that occurred to me is, again, the people who wrote the Constitution were legislators.
Yes.
They understood how legislators work.
And they also understood the art of passive aggression.
There you go. And I'm wondering if this is like set up as sort of a punishment for potential bad behavior on the part of legislators who might want to take a long recess.
In order to cripple or paralyze the president.
Exactly. Here we're going to give this to the power to the president and say, hey, look what you get to do as a way to control those senators.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of give and take in this that I don't think we think about much.
Pretty nuanced.
Okay.
So that's our line.
That's our line.
All right. A new line next time.